December 22nd, 1944. The Ardennes Forest, Belgium. If hell were made of ice, this would be its capital. The temperature has plummeted to 20 degrees below zero, a record-shattering freeze that hasn't been seen in Europe for over 30 years. But the cold isn't the only thing trying to kill the men of the 101st Airborne Division. At a fragile outpost on the western perimeter of the besieged town of Bastogne, a bitter argument is unfolding that seems trivial against the backdrop of a world war, yet it holds the key to life and death for a platoon of freezing American paratroopers. The subject of this dispute is Corporal Daniel Reeves, a man his comrades are currently looking at with a mix of confusion, pity, and outright anger. While the rest of the unit is frantically digging foxholes, hacking away at the frozen earth until their hands bleed to create some semblance of cover from the inevitable German artillery, Reeves is doing something that looks dangerously like insanity. He is standing exposed in the knee-deep snow, his fingers cracked and raw, meticulously stringing hundreds of yards of scavenged copper wire between the pine trees. He is tying Mk2 fragmentation grenades to trunks and burying them in snowdrifts, creating a geometric web that looks more like a child's string game than a defensive fortification. His fellow soldiers call him a fool. They mock him, calling him the mad engineer and the joker of the 101st. They are terrified that his contraption is a waste of precious time, and worse, a hazard that will trip up their own patrols in the dark. His commanding officer, Sergeant Mackenzie, has just ordered him to dismantle the stupid trap before dawn, screaming that it is a liability. But they don't know what Reeves knows. They don't see the battlefield the way he sees it. They don't realize that this pile of junk, as Mackenzie called it, is about to become the most lethal defensive system on the entire Western Front. They don't know that in exactly 4 hours, Daniel Reeves' stubborn refusal to follow conventional wisdom will generate a rain of steel that saves them all from total annihilation. This is not just a war story. It is a lesson in the triumph of system thinking over brute force. The story of how a miner's son used the principles of industrial engineering to break the back of a German assault wave. To understand the sheer audacity of what Corporal Reeves is doing, we must first pull back the lens and look at the desperate, suffocating context of the Battle of the Bulge. It is the winter of 1944, and the Third Reich is dying. But a dying beast is often the most dangerous. Adolf Hitler, from his bunker in Rastenburg, has launched Operation Wacht am Rhein, Watch on the Rhine. It is a massive, desperate gamble, throwing 30 divisions and over 1,000 tanks against the thinly held American lines in the Ardennes sector. The goal is to split the Allied armies, seize the vital port of Antwerp, and force a negotiated peace. Standing squarely in the path of this iron juggernaut is the small market town of Bastogne. On a map, Bastogne looks like the hub of a wheel, with 7 critical paved roads radiating out from its center. In the mud and snow of winter, these roads are the only way for German Panzer divisions to move at speed. Whoever holds Bastogne holds the throttle of the German advance. Fate has placed the defense of this vital crossroads in the hands of the 101st Airborne Division, the Screaming Eagles. But the Eagles are grounded. They have been rushed to the front in cattle trucks, lacking everything a soldier needs to survive. They are outnumbered 5-1. They are completely surrounded, cut off from supply lines. They have no air support because a heavy blanket of freezing fog has grounded the Allied air forces. Most critically, they are starving for ammunition and freezing to death in summer weight uniforms. Soldiers are wrapping their feet in gunny sacks and newspapers to ward off trench foot, a gangrenous condition that is taking as many men out of the line as German bullets. It is here, in this white purgatory on the western edge of the perimeter, that Corporal Daniel Reeves faces a tactical nightmare. His squad is guarding a sector of dense pine forest that offers perfect cover for the enemy. Facing them is the German 47th Panzer Corps and the 26th Volksgrenadier Division. These are not raw recruits. They are battle-hardened veterans, many of whom learned the art of winter warfare on the brutal Eastern Front against the Russians. The Germans know the Americans are low on ammo. They know the Americans are cold. And they have a tactic specifically designed for this terrain: infiltration. The German doctrine relies on Stoßtrupp tactics, shop troops moving silently through the forest at night or under the cover of thick fog, creeping within grenade range of American foxholes before unleashing a sudden, overwhelming close quarters assault. Reeves knows that if the Germans get that close, his unit is dead. A foxhole is a tomb if the enemy is standing above you. The standard American infantry doctrine dictates that you dig in, establish fields of fire, and wait. But Reeves does not have the ammunition to win a sustained firefight, and he certainly doesn't have the manpower to watch every shadow in the forest. He needs a force multiplier. He needs a way to kill the enemy before they even know they have been engaged. This is where the unique background of Daniel Reeves comes into play. Before the war, Reeves was not a soldier. He was not a tactician. He was the son of a mining engineer, and he had spent his formative years working in and around industrial mines. The mindset of a miner is fundamentally different from the mindset of an infantryman. To an infantryman, a grenade is a single weapon. You pull the pin, you throw it, it explodes. To a miner, explosives are tools in a system. In mining, you don't just detonate charges at random. You design a sequence. You calculate the geometry of the blast to achieve a specific result. But the most important lesson Reeves learned from the mines was the concept of redundancy. In deep shaft mining, safety systems are designed in layers. If the primary ventilation fails, a secondary backup kicks in. If a support beam cracks, the load is legally required to be distributed to adjacent supports. You never rely on one single point of failure. Reeves looks at the 57 Mark II grenades sitting in the ammo crates, and he doesn't see 57 separate weapons. He sees the components of a unified machine. He realizes that the standard tripwire booby trap taught in basic training is flawed. A single wire attached to a single grenade is easily avoided or survived. If an enemy soldier trips a standard wire, he dives. If he dives, the grenade explodes in the air or on the ground where he was standing, and the shrapnel flies over him. Reeves decides to build a trap that accounts for human behavior. He decides to weaponize the enemy's own survival instincts. For 72 hours, fueled by adrenaline and fear, Reeves works like a man possessed. He scours the battlefield for materials. He finds discarded telephone wire, links of parachute cord from the initial drops, and even strips of fabric torn from ruined equipment. He begins to construct his masterpiece. He doesn't just string wire across the path. He creates a three-dimensional kill box. He sets wires at ankle height, about 6 inches off the ground, hidden beneath the fresh powder snow. These are the triggers. But he doesn't connect these triggers to just one grenade. He employs a daisy chain system. He connects the pin of the primary grenade to the pins of secondary and tertiary grenades using tension lines. He positions these secondary grenades vertically, tying them to the trunks of the pine trees at chest height and head height. He also buries some behind the potential position of the enemy. The geometry is ruthless. If a German soldier trips the ankle wire, the primary grenade's pin is pulled. But as the wire goes taut, it also yanks the pins of the grenades on the trees to the left and right. Reeves meticulously adjusts the tension on the striker springs. The standard fuse on a Mark II pineapple grenade burns for 4 to 5 seconds. Reeves modifies the tension on the spooms, the safety levers, so that some fly off instantly, while others have a split-second delay. He wants a staggered detonation. He wants a chain reaction that sounds like an artillery barrage, not a single pop. The conflict with his unit reaches a boiling point on the afternoon of December 21st. Sergeant McKenzie, a man whose nerves are frayed by weeks of constant shelling and lack of sleep, inspects the line and loses his temper. He sees the spider web of wires and sees a disaster waiting to happen. "Reeves!" he bellows, his voice cracking in the frigid air. "What in God's name are you building? A circus tent? We are fighting the Wehrmacht, not trapping rabbits. Tear this garbage down. If one of our runners trips on this in the dark and blows his leg off, I will personally shoot you before the Germans get the chance." The peer pressure is suffocating. The other men in the squad, huddled in their foxholes, look at Reeves with disdain. They just want to survive the night. They see his activity as drawing unnecessary attention to their position. They call him the professor with a sneer. They tell him that a hole in the ground is the only thing that saves you from shrapnel, not a string. It is a classic confrontation between the innovator and the traditionalist. The traditionalist seeks comfort in the known procedures, even if those procedures are failing. The innovator risks ridicule to find a new solution. Reeves does not argue. He does not shout back. He simply nods, waits for McKenzie to leave, and goes right back to work. He knows the geography of the forest better than anyone now. He knows that the Germans will come through the ravine because it offers the best cover from the wind. He ignores the order to dismantle it. He bets his life and the lives of his mockers on his calculations. Before we see how this gamble plays out in the blood and snow of Bastogne, I want to pause and ask you a question. In your own life or career, have you ever seen a solution that everyone else thought was crazy, but you knew it would work? Did you stick to your guns like Corporal Reeves, or did you bow to the pressure? We would love to hear your stories of innovation against the odds. Please leave a comment below, and let's get a conversation started about the value of thinking differently. The sun sets on December 21st, plunging the forest into an abyssal darkness. The temperature drops further. The fog rolls in, thick and heavy, dampening sound and reducing visibility to zero. It is the kind of night that terrifies soldiers more than combat itself, because imagination fills the void where sight fails. At 0400 hours on December 22nd, the witching hour begins. This is the time when the human body is at its deepest ebb of energy, when sentries are most likely to doze off. Deep in the mist, a crack company of German grenadiers begins their advance. They are clad in white camouflage smocks, ghost-like figures moving silently through the trees. They are heavily armed with MP-40 submachine guns and stick grenades. Their objective is to breach the American line, slit the throats of the sentries, and open a hole for the Panzer IV tanks waiting in the rear. They move with practiced discipline, placing their feet carefully to avoid snapping twigs. They are professional killers, and they are confident. They have spotted the fresh earth of the American foxholes earlier in the day. They know exactly where the Americans are sleeping. They do not know that they are walking into a machine. Sergeant McKenzie is awake, staring blindly into the gray soup of the fog. He grips his M1 Garand rifle, his knuckles white. He hears nothing. No engine noise, no voices, just the oppressive silence of the winter woods. Then it happens. A sound so distinct and terrifying that it freezes the blood of everyone who hears it. Ping! It is the metallic sound of a safety spoon springing off a grenade body. A German pointman, creeping forward on his belly, has snagged a tripwire hidden under a layer of fresh snow. His training takes over instantly. He screams, "Minen! Runter!" Mines, down, and buries his face in the snow, curling into a ball. It is the correct textbook maneuver. Against a standard mine or a single booby trap, lying flat minimizes the cross-section exposed to the blast. But Daniel Reeves had anticipated exactly this reaction. The German soldier has done exactly what the miner wanted him to do. The forest erupts. It is not a single explosion. It is a cascading rhythmic series of detonations that sounds like the end of the world. Crack! Boom! The first grenade, buried low, detonates, sending shock waves through the ground. But the tripwire has done its deadly work further up the line. The tension pulls the pins on the tree-mounted grenades. Boom! 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 The explosions happen in the air, 6 feet off the ground. The cast iron bodies of the Mark II grenades shatter into thousands of jagged, red-hot fragments. Because the grenades are detonating in the air, the shrapnel doesn't fly up and outward. It rains down. It plunges directly into the backs of the German soldiers lying prone in the snow. The overlapping kill zones act like a scythe. There is nowhere to hide. If they stand up, they are hit by the horizontal blast. If they lie down, they are hit by the vertical rain of steel. Panic takes hold of the German unit. In the chaos, the discipline of the Wehrmacht evaporates. Men scream in agony and confusion. They cannot see where the attack is coming from. They begin to scramble, trying to retreat or flank the source of the explosions. But Reeves has accounted for this too. His system utilizes redundancy. As the Germans scramble to the left and right, trying to find cover behind trees, they stumble into the secondary defensive perimeter Reeves established for exactly this scenario. More wires are tripped. More spoons fly. The daisy chain continues its grim work. The forest lights up with the orange flashes of TNT revealing brief, horrific glimpses of men falling. The concussions shake the ground so violently that snow falls from the tree branches, adding to the surrealism of the nightmare. For 19 seconds, the sector is a blender of fire and iron. And then, as quickly as it started, it stops. The echoes roll away through the valley, replaced by the groans of the wounded. Inside the American foxholes, not a single trigger has been pulled. Mackenzie and his squad are stunned into silence. They clutch their weapons, waiting for the enemy to storm through the smoke. But no one comes. The attack has been vaporized. When the sun finally struggles through the mist hours later, the Americans cautiously emerge to inspect the site. The scene that greets them is one of absolute devastation. In a kill zone roughly 50 yards wide, 23 German soldiers lie dead. The snow is blackened with soot and stained crimson. The bodies are riddled with shrapnel. Most are still clutching their weapons. Safety catches off, ready to fire. But they never got the chance. Trails of blood leading away into the deeper woods indicate that dozens more were wounded and dragged away by their retreating comrades. Intelligence reports would later estimate that Reeves' trap inflicted over 70 casualties in less than a minute. It wiped out the combat effectiveness of an entire German platoon and stalled the advance on that flank for days. Sergeant Mackenzie, the man who had threatened to court-martial Reeves, walks slowly through the carnage. He looks at the shattered trees, the precise geometry of the wires that are now slack and empty. He stops in front of Daniel Reeves. Reeves is leaning against a foxhole, shaking from the adrenaline dump and the cold, lighting a cigarette with trembling hands. Mackenzie looks at the fool, then looks back at the dead enemy who would have undoubtedly killed them all in their sleep. He doesn't say a word. He simply reaches out, claps a heavy hand on Reeves' shoulder, and nods. It is a gesture of profound apology and respect. The stupid trap has become the platoon's salvation. The jeers of mad engineer are replaced by a reverent silence. Reeves is no longer the outsider. He is the wizard who commanded the lightning. The legacy of this event extends far beyond the frozen woods of Bastogne. Daniel Reeves proved that in war, the mind is the most dangerous weapon. He demonstrated the power of force multiplication, using engineering to allow one man to do the work of 50. After the war, combat historians and military engineers analyzed the effectiveness of the improvised traps used in the Ardennes. The specific principles Reeves used, directional fragmentation and the daisy chain triggering mechanism, highlighted a gap in the U.S. arsenal. The military realized the need for a standardized, directional anti-personnel mine that could be command detonated or tripwired to cover a specific sector. This line of thinking eventually contributed to the development of the M18 Claymore mine in the 1950s. The Claymore, with its curved shape designed to spray steel balls in a 60-degree arc, is the industrialized version of Reeves' tree-mounted grenades. It is the embodiment of the lesson that you don't just blow things up. You direct the energy where it hurts the most. Daniel Reeves survived the war. He returned home, not to a ticker tape parade, but to the quiet life of industry. He went back to working in engineering and safety, carrying with him the hard-won lessons of the Bulge. He became a fierce advocate for industrial safety protocols, always preaching the gospel of redundancy. A system that relies on one bolt is a broken system, he would tell his workers. You always need a backup. You always need a second line of defense. The mindset that allowed him to construct a machine of death in 1944 was repurposed to protect life and peace. He understood that whether you are trying to stop a German Panzer Grenadier or prevent a mine shaft collapse, the principle is the same. Assume the worst will happen and build a system that can handle it. The story of the grenade trap of Bastogne is a powerful reminder to all of us. It reminds us that innovation often looks like madness to the uninitiated. It reminds us that when we are backed into a corner, facing overwhelming odds, the solution is rarely to dig deeper into the hole we are in. The solution is to look up, look around, and think sideways. It teaches us that one person armed with nothing but wire, rusty iron, and a refusal to accept the status quo can change the course of history. If you found this story of ingenuity and survival inspiring, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel and ensures we can keep bringing you these deep dives into military history. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. In our next video, we are going to take to the skies of the Pacific Theater to analyze the thatch weave, the brilliant aerial maneuver that allowed slow American wildcats to defeat the legendary Japanese Zero. You won't want to miss that masterclass in tactical geometry. Subscribe today and join us as we uncover the strategies that shaped our world. I'm War, and I'll see you on the next battlefield.